Done. Okay. So David is going to show us, he's been doing some amazing work on ways we can look at some of the information we're going to do. So here we'll start this up, his section, then we'll go on to instructions with everyone following that. So if you want to attach the link, David.
Yeah, sure. Thanks, Karen. Afternoon, everyone. We'll make some introductions in a moment, but we're going to use two bits of technology today. One is Teams that you've all successfully managed to log on. Although Tom and Alexander, I don't know if it's deliberate, we can't see your faces, but please feel free to join your video. And the other is a tool called Mural, M-U-R-A-L, which is effectively an interactive workspace where we can collaborate. I don't know who's familiar with it. It's very easy. Don't be frightened. What I've done is put in the chat box now a link. And I think if you all click that link, it will take you in a web browser to the Mural workspace. So if we click that link, if anybody has any trouble, please let me know. Perhaps give me a thumbs up if you can see Mural.
Yeah, that's come through.
Okay, great. Anybody not managed to get on yet?
Oh, that would be me.
And me, actually. It's
okay.
All right, I've got the link though. Hold on.
Okay, links in the chat box. Click on that.
Yeah, I'm doing it.
It would be lovely if it was only me that was having problems.
No, don't worry, it's me. I'm there.
Okay, so I've only got a single screen, so I can't see your faces and the Mural board. So I'm flicking between the two. What I've done is issue a command that says I've summoned you. So what I hope is happening now, you may have started by seeing that you could move around a big white space, but I've summoned you to follow my mouse. So what I'm hoping that you're seeing at the moment is a BIM4Housing agenda and a picture of Karen and a picture of me. Everybody got that? Great. Okay, thank you.
It's still not, David is sorry, it's still not letting me on at the moment. Which is really frustrating. What I might have to do, let's try another.
Telling me I'm a visiting duck, that's fine.
Yeah, I really should.
You're
in
a
an ideal world,
duck.
I'd have sent you an email with an individual link, but it's treated you as a visitor for now, and it's put an odd name against your cursor. So this is not something I've named you, just to be clear.
It's fine, don't worry.
Although strangely enough, if you did ask me to think of a name.
Karen, you may need to close down some of the other applications. We use it quite a lot, but it's very resource hungry.
Right, okay. Okay, let's just close them other bits down then. Let's close that. Yeah, it's closing a few things down. So just while I'm just trying to get on, actually, just some housekeeping notes. We are going to probably put particularly next week when there's loads of us as well, we'll put everyone on mute and then kind of do the waving hands if there's anything to talk about, just so there isn't lots of feedback. And right, I'm going to try again, and we are going to be looking to so I'm just trying to click the link, hold these meetings probably about every 2 weeks, but leave them as fairly short, as short as possible, without taking too much time, but regular. Okay, let's see if I can get on now.
Okay, so somebody said they use Mural. Who was that?
Nick. I'm just going to send the link to myself on my home computer and see if that works. Do you want to share your screen just quickly, David, so I can see that? So at least then I can talk through the first bit.
Yeah.
And not hold it up while I try and sort this bit out. It was weird because it worked earlier, didn't it? So I'm.
Yeah. So I'm now screen sharing as well.
Lovely.
Okay. So if you can see that now, Karen.
Yeah, that's perfect.
Do you want to run through the introductions and the agenda?
Yeah. Yep, lovely. Okay, so so in terms of what we're going to go through, we're going to do instructions in a minute, but David's got a little bit of a unique way of us doing that. In terms of myself, I'm Kingspan Installation. I put together the strategy for BIM for Kingspan Installation about 6-7 years ago now. We have a guy in-house that does a lot of the modelling for us, but I actually look after the residential market as a whole. David, do you want to quickly do a quick introduction to yourself?
Yeah, thanks. So I'm Dave Emery. My company's Vertex. I've been an architectural technologist since the mid-70s. I like to think I'm older than I look, or older than I look. Yeah. I set my company up 15 years ago to focus on virtual construction and BIM. So I've helped deliver some of the first BIM projects, 5D BIM projects in the UK. I've spent much of the last 10 years or so working with some large contractors, presenting workshops and presentations around BIM. I've worked on probably 60 to 70 off-site projects for various clients. And for the past 14 months, I've been working with the Supply Chain Sustainability School, where we've been developing some CITB sponsored learning materials for the whole industry for a project called Improving Skills on Off-Site Construction. So it's aimed at architects, QSs, project managers, logistics, site managers, and procurement. So BIM and off-site are my things. And I also spent 24 years working in the house building industry.
Thanks,
so having introduced us to, what I'm going to do now is get you a little fun exercise here. Hopefully you're all seeing a map of the UK. This is really a bit of an icebreaker, and also to help you get to grips with Mural, which is, as I said, effectively a big virtual whiteboard. And the way we interact with it on this exercise is we're going to stick some post-it notes on. So if you look down the left-hand side of your Mural screen, you'll see some icons on a black background. And the second one down looks like a piece of paper with the corner folded up. If you click on that, you can then choose a post-it note to stick on the map. And if you'd like to stick a post-it note on the map and put your name, rank and number and locate the post-it roughly where you are in the UK. Oh, it's all going really well. Well done, everybody.
I'm going to zoom in, try and, where's that one?
Sorry,
how are we grabbing the post-it note?
So you're going to the toolbars in a vertical column on the left of the screen.
Yeah, seen it, yeah.
Second icon is paper with a corner turned up. Just tap on the sticky note.
You should be able to get one up just by double clicking.
Yeah.
Right, where's the? Okay.
And you can zoom in and out of this board as well, if that helps. There's an icon on the bottom right of your screen which will help you jump around the screen and zoom in and out. Or if you, like me on a Mac, you can pinch to zoom and so on.
Oh, I think mine just got deleted. I think when I pressed return, it deleted it.
Yeah, don't use return within the note.
I'm going to try and move mine down. Yeah, Nick, you and I must be very close to each other. Where are you?
We're based in Reading as a company. I live between Reading and Ascot. How about you?
I'm in just north of Southampton.
I need to move mine up.
Close to me. I'm in Windsor.
We need more space in the south, don't we?
Tom, you're hiding me.
Oh, no, sorry.
I'm trying to move mine up because I'm a little bit further up than that as well.
Yeah, you can grab the corner of the notes and resize them, make them smaller.
Well, I seem to have ended up on a vodka bottle on the sideboard.
heard the saying, there's always one.
That's usually the end of the night, isn't it?
And it's always me.
Why? Let's try it. Yep, I can't. Mine's well and truly hidden. Okay, I'll come back to my bit in a minute. Okay.
It's really
I
just a
can
bit
move
of
to the side if you like, Karen.
Yeah.
No, it's all right.
I'll move off there.
Ah,
I'll
right.
pretend
Okay.
I'm somewhere I'm not for you.
No. I'm trying. It's not.
To be fair, I'm probably a bit up today. I'm up here somewhere, so.
Well, I was going to say no. It was my fault. I had it on, so I am about there, ish, and my name. Okay. And what was it? The best thing about the job? Ooh.
Well, let's do that verbally, shall we, Karen? So I think you've got the hang of it,
yes.
hopefully. The reason we've done this is just to get those who've never used Mural before used to it, because we are going to ask you to deliver some inputs into this Mural board a bit later on. So in any order you like it, give us 30 seconds who you are, what you do, who you work for. Maybe what's your interest in this group? What do you hope to get out of it? And more importantly, what do you think you can put into it? At random, Daz at David Miller Architects.
Hi there, good afternoon.
I'm going to come back into Zoom so I can see your face, by the way.
Yeah.
I feel that was a great thing to do. Fine. Yeah, sorry. So that's from David Miller Architects. Been with the Fiona, I think, since 2007. So sort of 13 or so years. I'm actually, as I said, based in the Liverpool office. We opened up a Liverpool office about a couple of years ago. Moved up here in September, but obviously seen a fairly generally an empty city for a while at the moment. So, but I'm going to build on that later. I guess my role within the practice, one of the directors looking predominantly kind of interested in the technical side, so helping the teams from a technical strategic point of view, also help with setting up the various digital strategies over the sort of last 10 or so years. But I'm also leading the R&D projects within the office, which we predominantly try and do on live projects with clients to try and sort of incrementally improve the workflows. In terms of sort of the various modern methods of construction, we worked on a couple of projects, and some of the clients contractors are actually in this group. So it's really good to kind of be able to develop and build on that, and try and obviously improve things all the way from what clients are within their brief, manufacturing side, and obviously kind of handover. So and a lot of the things that obviously George and I have been talking about as well from a fire safety point of view as well. So hopefully that gives you just a general overview.
What do you think you'd like to see from this group, and also what can you contribute to it?
I think in terms of contribution, I guess it's real life experience that we've had on a number of projects, not obviously near the same view. So that's going to be something I can bring. I'm working with on the other working group as well, design working group on that side. And I guess from the group, really to understand what we need to do to either kind of streamline the process, or whether we had to change some sort of procurement part of it, or improve the kind of supply chain to kind of give those that are in that sector more kind of confidence, I guess, to invest to kind of get a better product at the end of it.
Okay, thank you. Alexandra, I see you sitting under the Velux roof window there. Cool enough.
I believe it is. Yeah, I thought I'd turn the camera on for this bit for you. Yeah, well, my day job is BIM and Digital Platforms Manager at Tata Steel. I know George and Daz slightly less, but certainly George from lots of work I've been doing over the last 4 years in product data, structured product data, data governance, manufacturers. My key thing is trying to get manufacturers to want to have their own structured product databases, and then linking that tag and track digital twins. We have to say that if you mention digital, don't you? And all that stuff. But I also, and the reason for the interest in this group is I also head up Tata Steel's involvement in the Seismic project, which is the modular platform, construction platform for originally schools, but also being applied to hospitals, commercial and potentially residential as well. And so we've just kicked off ISCF, we can't say Innovate UK funded, but ISCF funded project. So we're just kicking off now, and so we've got a frame, and now we're working on all of the floors, roofs, ceilings, internal and external walls, systems that would be the kit of parts for that, various different types for different types of construction, all that sort of stuff. So big project, and not very long to do it on that. And so I guess with this group, I mean, some of that work is looking at the kind of the bit of a mixture of my two jobs. There is how do we link data from 3D models through to manufacturing, for example, which is a CIH project for their platform work as well. So I think there's a few bits of knowledge that we've got from different areas and different things we've done on that, and I guess just being a manufacturer involved in this space, hopefully have some insights in different areas on that. Yeah.
Okay, great. Thank you.
Hi, Adam.
Hi there, Karen. Yeah, sorry I'm a bit late.
No, we've only just started
everything in.
We're just starting doing instructions, so you're fine. You're fine. We'll do your instruction in a minute, Adam. We'll let you get settled in for a second as well.
I'm going around as you appear on my screen, which makes Richard next.
Yep.
You need to put your mic on, Richard. Still on mute.
Sorry, what I said was, don't worry about me. I'm kind of in the background. I'm not relevant to the group, so you just guys carry on.
Okay, thank you. George.
George Stevenson, Active Plan, and what I'm really interested in seeing how we can get the community to start identifying what the risks are and what the challenges are, and encourage that collaboration across the board. So what I'm really looking to see if we can create a different environment in which we're looking at these things, fixing a lot of the issues that are causing barriers at the moment. So yeah, that's my interest.
Thank you. Baron, you're next on my screen.
I'm Byron. I head up BIM at Calford Seedon. I also chair the BIM4Housing Association project, and I chair up the advisory group in BIM4Housing. I sit on the executive team of the UK BIM Alliance as well. My background is pretty much all BIM, if I'm honest with you. I started off in architecture. I'm interested in the modular side and modern methods of construction. A lot of the projects we work on, a lot of our clients are very interested in how BIM and MMC and modular, for example, come into play and how they can work together. We're working on quite a few projects at the moment, which are garage sites, and very much looking at how we can use off-site and modular construction to go with these. So it's been quite an interesting journey. It's more just to give my knowledge and take some knowledge as well. And I think there's always new ways of working, isn't there? So it's important to see how we can collaborate to find better ways of working.
Okay, thank you, Baron. Nick, over to you.
Is Nick on mute?
You're still on mute, Nick.
On mute.
Yeah. That's become the phrase of 2020, hasn't it?
Yeah.
Still on mute.
Hello, folks. Sorry about that. I'm Nick. Worked at Sapphire Balconies for 14.5 years. I head up the marketing, both the UK and for global as well. That does include a lot more than what marketing would tend to be involved in. So we do a lot of research and thought leadership. We run thought leadership events. under the ResiBuild brand, and we also educate architects and so on, and other people about key specifics. So that involves a lot of R&D and so on in our own test labs and what have you, particularly in relation to fire recently. But also at the moment we're doing a lot in terms of MMC. We are an MMC product. We manufacture complete balconies off-site, which get transported to projects and so on. As part of our globalization program, we're investing a major amount of money into digital software, which we're currently linking in with outputs for BIM and looking at the best way of approaching it for each marketplace. So that's what our kind of where our interest lies, and that really in relation to both thought leadership and the CABs, as we call it, our software for doing that.
Thank you. Tom, I think we've met each other somewhere, have we?
Yeah, I believe so. I don't know if you guys can see me. Someone mentioned you couldn't.
Yes.
Yeah, you can see me.
Yeah.
Okay, good. Yeah, so I'm Tom Cannon, also a technologist by trade, I suppose, but I'm the group BIM manager at Hill. So we are, for those of you who don't know Hill, we're a developer and contractor for residential, mainly based in the southeast and London. So it's my job to implement our strategy and going forward on BIM and ensure that we're delivering BIM on our projects. Varun being one of the client representatives on a couple of those. Similarly to Varun, also sits on the BIM4Housing Associations group with him, and I chair the construction group for this BIM4Housing, and I also sit on the development group as well. In terms of MMC, something that Hill's very interested in doing, we've definitely delivered MMC projects in the past, although it's something that we're looking to dive into more. I believe that volumetrics it should kind of work in partnership with BIM, to be honest, and offsite manufacturing. So yeah, definitely within my BIM strategy going forwards. We recently, I don't know if anyone's heard of Foundation 200, but it's something that Hill's done where we're looking to deliver 200 homes to the homeless. We've already done a few on a couple of garage sites in Cambridge, and it's essentially just a pod where you've got kitchen, bedroom, shower facilities, and then we're doing everything from pots and pans and cutlery in there as well for them. So that's something that we're promoting going forward. It's fully just off the back of Hill as a charity, but we're looking to dive more into MMC on our projects and use a similar platform for perhaps high-rise projects in London, for example. So that's me.
Yeah, great. Thanks ever so much. Adam, we can't hear you yet, and I can't see you. I don't know if that's deliberate, but please introduce yourself.
Oh, I can see Adam.
Oh, can you? I can just see his logo.
You should be able to see me. Obviously, on another page of the Teams. Yeah, so my name's Adam Locke. I'm from Lang O'Rourke. I'm Partnership and Innovation Leader. I lead our R&D and collaboration portfolio. This includes previously a large project around housing, looking at volumetric for housing, which is now complete, and currently a project called Product-Based Building Solutions. I heard the reference to seismic earlier, so this is one of the other the 9 demonstrator projects that are funded through Innovate UK, and looking very much around sort of similar ideas around a product-based building solution that allows us to configure quickly a physical kit of parts in a digital format that allows us certainty and productivity in the way we deliver, and other things in the infrastructure space which are quite aligned. Also, in relation to housing, I chair or in the process of handing over the chair of a working group for CLC, the Innovation in Buildings Workstream, looking at demand aggregation to support the volume from MMC in housing. So hopefully a few links. I would not profess to be a BIM specialist, but DFMA and BIM is very much part of what we call digital engineering, is very much part of the Langerock technical strategy, and obviously a big part of our R&D program. So I think I'm certainly here as an interim start. It may be that another colleague makes more sense as we continue, but hopefully I can understand a little bit more about the sort of purpose and agenda of the group, and then it may be me and or it may be a colleague that carries on.
Lovely.
Okay.
Thanks, Adam.
Thanks, Adam.
Just before David's going to now cover the bits about MMC and some definitions, so that we've got clarity on what we're talking about. Just before we go on to that, we're just going to quickly give you an overview of what we're aiming to do and how we're going to work this session and future work, so that we've got clarity on the actions we need to be looking at. The plan is with all the other working groups, we based the work on the questions that have come out from a number of events and that people have been asking. With MMC, because of the complicated nature of the work, we're going to do something slightly different initially, in that we want all your viewpoints on where the problems are first. We'll then tailor in or bring in the questions that have come out of the groups and see how they fit up. But we didn't want to be swayed just by those questions. So we're going to do a little bit of work on that. Once we've done that, we'll then bring it all in and then look to follow up next meeting and start to actually divvy up if there's anything we've got quick answers for, if there's any resources that are already out there. I know that David's been working on some of these already that we can bring in, and then the bigger problems we can perhaps break down and then look at seeing how that ties in with the BIM4HA side and everything from there. So first of all, David's going to just quickly talk about the MMC side, and then we'll start to look at the problems that we have and how we're going to split that down into each stage of the MMC process.
Okay, thanks, Karen. So if I can direct you all back to the mural board, please. And I'm going to summon everyone. If I can just get the right click on my mouse. So by summoning you, what I hope is that you now see what I see, which is the MMC definitions document.
David, sorry, has Adam got that? He's coming. Have you got that, Adam?
No, Adam, if you go into the chat box in Teams, you'll find a hyperlink. And if you can follow that link to a mural workspace. Thank you, Richard.
Sorry. No, I think what happened, because I've joined the meeting late, I think you don't see all the previous...
Okay, you're absolutely right. Let me just copy and paste that again then. There you go. It's displaying again, Adam.
Yeah, okay, great.
Okay, thank you. So I'll just give Adam a moment.
See, that's a bit of a problem with the Teams thing, isn't it? Is they need to sort that out.
Well, I can imagine some embarrassing moments if new entrants could see all the previous conversation. But use with care. Okay. So I need to see you in Teams. Is anybody not familiar with this MMC definitions document? Have we all seen this? It's an important question, because if you're not familiar with it, I want to run through the MMC definitions. But if we know what those are, we skip quite a big chunk. Is this the Mark
Farmer document?
It is, yeah.
Okay.
Shall I run through it exceptionally quickly? And
yes, please.
Okay.
Yes,
so Karen and I felt quite strongly that if we're going to talk about offsite and MMC, we perhaps want to not swim against the tide in defining what we mean by it. So we're suggesting we use the definitions in this modern methods of construction document. Incidentally, if you want to see it, if you look in the bottom left corner of the screen where it says PDF document, that's actually a hyperlink out to the document where you can go and download it. But in essence, a lot of work has been done in trying to categorize different forms of modern methods of construction. And the best we can come up with is 7 categories. So if I very quickly run through the definition of what those are, I'm going to summon you again. So category 1 is defined as pre-manufacturing 3D primary structural systems. This is, as the picture shown on the screen, the most common type of this is the volumetric modular market. I'm not going to dwell on it. Category 2 is pre-manufactured 2D primary structural systems. Typically, flat pack structural systems can be anything from SIPS panels, roof trusses, that sort of thing. Category 3, pre-manufactured components. These are non-systemized. So if you like, these may well be 3-dimensional models, but they're not systemized, not repeating. And the one that best typifies that for me is on the lower of those images, the prefabricated bespoke loft space for an individual job, not to be repeated. Going over to category 4, additive manufacturing, structural and non-structural. The clearest and simplest illustration of that is the advent of 3D printing, and the best I could find to illustrate that was just do a Google search for images of 3D house printing, and there's a whole raft of those. Category 5, pre-manufactured non-structural assemblies and sub-assemblies. So the internal cladding you see on the left of the top slide is in, somebody tell me which station in London. They're pre-manufactured off-site cladding panels, all sorts of amorphous shapes and patterns that fit together beautifully on site. The illustration on the right is a prefabricated lintel with brick slips. Avoids the bricklayer having to line his back and reach up to mortar and point those. So those are all the sort of component-led innovations. Category 6 is building product-led site labour reduction and productivity improvements. And a quick couple of illustrations are there are something like that dry screed. I don't need to go through the exact advantages of a dry screed. On the left there, you've got pre-manufactured wall panels made to the correct site, shipped to site and assembled, no cutting on site. And category 7 is site process-led site labour reduction and productivity and assurance improvements. So it's now bringing in new technologies to improve the performance of people on site. You can see there we've got drones, VR and AR and that sort of thing. So the first 5 of those are very much component and system-led. The latter 2 are productivity improvements. So Karen and I, we had a half-day planning meeting for this meeting earlier in the week, and I think one of the key things to any group like this is to establish some clearly defined outputs. I'm sure we've all been in these groups before, and somebody will say at the outset, we want it to be more than just a talking shop, and that applies as much here as in any other group you've been part of. My previous experience with similar organisations is that at the very least the group tries to create 1 or 2 printed leaflets or brochures or guidance documents. Karen and I thought maybe we could do this a little bit differently. As I may have explained at the start, I've been working for a long time with the Supply Chain Sustainability School. In fact, I'm going to come back to Zoom. Are we all actually members of the Supply Chain School? Hands up if you are, please.
You are or you aren't? You
are.
Yeah.
Yeah, Tommy, you're not. I've seen you at the events. Okay. The essence of the Supply Chain School is that it's a repository of resources. It's a membership organisation, but you can first of all, either on an individual or corporate level, go in and go through some assessment tools based on your job function or your company's business. Results of those assessments will guide you to a number of resources, which can be in the form of videos, websites, webinars, seminars, downloads, a whole raft of things. And the key thing is that by following these learning materials, you build up for yourself some qualifications and some certifications and some accreditations. Now, I have not spoken specifically to the supply chain school about whether there is a way that we can link in some of what this group is doing with the school's platform. But I thought as a starting point, it would be great to set out a matrix of some of the topics we want to show to the industry, but to relate those topics back to some kind of system or process or diagram. So that's quite a long preamble to the next slide I want to show you. So this is typically, hopefully you're all now seeing a picture of a PowerPoint slide. This is a slide that I used to create some learning materials in PowerPoint for procurement in offsite construction. And as you can see, at the heart of that is a procurement process that starts at number one, identifying the business need, goes through all the colour coding in a clockwise direction to review and learn. And around the edge of that, you can see some rectangles with subject matters on, colour coded to the section of that process diagram that they relate to. And if I may, I'd just like to show you for 1 minute how that looks in action. Bear with me a second. And I'll do the appropriate screen share. I knew I should have had two computers out today. Let's do it.
Is it overheating?
It's fine. It's me that's overheating. So are we seeing a PowerPoint deck?
Yeah.
Okay.
On the Teams, yeah.
On Teams, yeah.
Okay. So what I want to do is quickly show you just 2 slides or 3 slides from this. So imagine we're partway through this presentation in a traditional classroom environment. We're stating that this is what we're going to talk about next, this procurement process. And the next slide introduces, if you like, the first 2 topics, which are color coded, and we can see clearly that they relate it to identifying the business need. And this is all done in PowerPoint, but if I then click on, let's say, industry context, if anybody's familiar with the Prezi tool that used to be around, what that did was let you jump into a subject. And I'll just quickly whiz through these. And then to jump out and back to where you were. Similarly here, we just go through a few topics. And then when we've done those, we move on to the next slide. And it's exactly the same. So we jump in and out of topics. And it's always clear to the viewer where we are, what we're talking about, and how it relates to the other content. So on that basis, what Karen and I thought, well, what actually would be the optimum process or matrix or systemization that we could relate learning about offsite and MMC to? And we thought, and somebody mentioned DFMA earlier, we're thinking perhaps that we should, as a group, identify what are the learning topics about this construction industrialization process. Many of you, I'm sure, will be familiar with this. So I think the main message that I try and get across when I talk about DFMA is that wherever we are in the circle of inclusion here, we cannot work alone and in silos. We need to have an appreciation of everyone else's roles and responsibilities and difficulties, whether we're designing here, whether we're an offsite manufacturer, whether we've got the logistical problems of moving these things to and into site, if we're an assembler, or whether we're actually looking at the in-use and reuse of our systems and components. And underpinning that flow of information and collaboration are these things like leadership and culture, change management, innovation, collaboration, etc., etc. And they all come together in what's described as an industrial mindset. So a little bit later on, we're going to ask you to help us, if you like, populate each of those parts of the wheel with what we think are the relevant and important learning topics that we as a group need to put out to our industry to make sure that offsite and MMC and construction industrialization is viable and profitable.
And particularly where you think problems arise at the moment, where there is misunderstanding, miscommunication, where you see there's opportunities for us to clarify in order to help other people within the industry in relation to information within MMC.
And I hope, Karen, I interpreted that remark you just made when we discussed things previously. If you've seen, Karen, the mural screen, I think this was the point in which perhaps you wanted to promote a little bit of discussion about what the group thinks might be some of these problems of the flow of information around that wheel.
So just before we go to the next page, where we're going to ask each of you to put 3 problems that you've come across or that you believe are within the industry and put them into the categories, I just wanted to get, if we can go round and see where we think the main problems are or what you've come across. So whether that's things like late design changes, if that's causing a problem, whether MMC, because of the cost of the projects, in how that relates to information sharing and management, or what is needed. So whether it's standard warranty. So I don't know whether we can go around the room or go around the screen and give us your views of where you think the main issues are. We can then on the next screen actually pinpoint where they would be in the processes and move from there. So, Tom, I'm going to pick on you first, if that's okay. So what do you see as the main problems that are coming up for you as a contract, as a construction individual, but also in general as well, because obviously you would have got feedback from others. Oh, you're on mute. Sorry, Tom.
There we go.
Lovely.
Yeah, I mean, as we all know, MMC's been around for some time now, but it's still being slowly adopted, especially in the UK. So I think for us as a contractor, there's particular constraints in upfront investment on projects and the unknowns, and especially now with the new building regulations and everything to do with fire. I believe it's an opportunity now where we can tighten up things, in off-site construction. But I think previously it's been difficult, and now there's products finally starting to come out which are workable for us. So I think that's us as a business. Is our main constraint is that it's the unknowns and what's expected to be delivered. So
in terms of you said about the investment as well, is because there's such an unknown within the industry, the information isn't there on existing projects that's not shared, or
there's not that many go-to examples in London and the South East for good quality MMC. I mean, someone might be able to correct me, but there are projects out there that the UK's done, but there's nothing I think we're really slacking in the UK, and it's something that we need to be pushing forward.
If I record that as examples of good practice or success, are you happy with that as a phrase?
Can do. I mean, I'd say we're like I mentioned earlier with our Housing Foundation 200. I think that's good practice on what we're doing there. Yeah. But they're not difficult because it's only a pod on an old garage site. It's not a high-rise building.
Yeah.
So that's where your real constraints come in.
Yeah. I mean, feel free, anybody, to write on these post-it notes and add more if you want to.
Thanks, Tom. Byron.
I think for us, I think it's a lack of education maybe for clients in understanding what MMC actually entails.
Yeah, I'd agree.
I think that's probably one of the biggest factors. And what we do find is when they start thinking about MMC, it's quite late into a project. And had they thought about it, towards Ruba 1 and 2 instead of thinking about it towards Ruba 4, they would actually get better outcomes. So I think that is one of the biggest factors. I'd also say there's a relative newness to MMC, although it's been along for so long and it's been around for so long. I think because it's not been used so much, there is that approach and potentially not enough case studies to be able to show clients what they are actually able to achieve.
So in other words, so in terms of, I suppose, benefits regarding information flow as well, because obviously there's the BIM element or information as BIM, because there perhaps isn't that in the industry.
Yeah.
In order, there isn't the structure to actually look at these case studies as a set, because there isn't information around them. So yeah, perhaps having a fully BIMmed MMC project would actually be more quantifiable. Is that me getting that wrong, or is that?
I think any data that can be quantifiable kind of backs up the reasons why you would be doing MMC opposed to traditional methods of construction. But I think there's that lack of quantifiable data that's readily and easily available for clients to see, and that can often put them off.
When you say quantifiable data, are you talking particularly about cost data?
Cost, quality,
yeah.
You know, this sort of stuff. It's all well and good, say Tom and his team saying as a contractor, you know, we would recommend going off site and whatnot. But unless there's, you know, figures and data back that up, the client's never going to look at it.
Yeah, I agree. And I think it's also, you know, everyone loves traditional construction because it works, and we just stick at it, and that's what we use. And I think that's also why clients are reluctant to take on something new that, you know, as Van said, they've not got much examples to go off.
And I would say, sorry.
In our industry, we don't like to do change. We don't like change. We all know that. So even BIM, you know, it's been around for so long, but people don't like change. So it's how we can persuade them, and there isn't really that tool to persuade them right now.
In all the learning materials.
I've just seen, you know, Adam, regarding the case studies, that's really useful actually, and it'll be interesting to see how much, whether the information and BIM as a whole is involved in that, and actually if there's where those problems come about, and if where we then need to look at improving our practices within that as well. So yeah, thanks for that, Adam. Thanks, Karen.
Just going to comment, if I may, Karen, about this issue of cost. In the 14 months I spent putting these learning materials together, the very strong feedback from all the audiences we presented to was case studies are really, really important. And the single most difficult thing to achieve was good evidence of cost savings. So we spoke to Mark, I sat opposite Mark Farmer, I spoke to his directors, I spoke to Alinea, I spoke to RLB, who've got offices all over the world, and nobody could give me some comparative cost plans between offsite and traditional. I did, however, get some really good case studies where cost savings were proven by the offsite contractor. They came in at, on a £35 million project, they came in nearly £10 million below the lowest traditional bid. And actually that was the only bid that was anywhere near the client's budget. So they actually used offsite to unlock the project. So it's there, but it's really sparse. But I agree with whoever's made the point, we do need great case studies.
And I wouldn't hold up the CLC case studies as great, because they're a bit thin on the ground, and I think, you know, the reality is the commercial environment makes it difficult to put that together. And I think the one thing I would say is, you know, for example, Langeroot's just finished delivering the Naira Bevin University Hospital in Gwent. We finished it a year ahead of schedule, and it was delivered through MMC. And the only reason we were able to deliver it a year ahead of schedule, and you know, which we accelerated to provide additional beds for the COVID crisis, was because it was offsite manufactured. But the important thing about it was, to pick up on the other point, is it was designed that way, right? You know, you have to design it in. To try and think that you can not design it in and then change it halfway and save money and time is chasing a tail. So there's two things, particularly, when we look at the economics of manufacturing, there's two things. One is, don't do it halfway through. The other thing is repeatability. And, I think that argument has been well made, in CIH with the platform build program. You've got seismic and product-based building solutions represented on this call at the moment. And that's exactly to deal with the fact of that we're reinventing the wheel lots of times. And that's driving cost into design. That's costing design, that's driving cost into manufacture, and that's driving cost into assembly because of the lack of repeatability. And it's not repeatability for the sake of covering the world in very standard boxes. It is just repeatability, unseen repeatability, that is avoiding unnecessary non-value adding variation that just cripples the economics.
Yeah,
so
agree.
Yeah, so the thing is, in my mind, I think the argument has well been made about it. There are some barriers. I think it was Tom who said earlier that we know how to do existing construction with all its joy of quality challenges throughout the delivery process and all the other very well documented challenges that the industry has. But I think the bottom line is that it's the way people know how to do it. And I think the problem is change, isn't it? And actually upskilling people to do it in a different way. And the thing I say to my business is, how do you make it easier to do the new thing rather than the old thing? And I think Apple and that is a very great example of it's easier to conduct life with your iPhone now than without it.
Yeah.
And I think that's the real challenge. We've got to make designing with MMC easier rather than more difficult.
Yeah. Okay.
Richard's arm must be aching. He's holding.
No. Actually, I'm totally unqualified to make this comment. I'm making it on behalf of, cheekily on behalf of Mark McNulty, who made this point in the design meeting yesterday. I thought he would be on the call actually, but so I'm going to make the point. What he said was, from the point of view of Barrett's, the problem with MMC is they're changing their designs all the time. They're changing everything all the time. And the idea that you can have some sort of prefabricated is the wrong word, but I don't know the right one, something made off site, it's going to be changed all the time. For the major house builders who are working in that way, it just doesn't work. It just doesn't work for them, or it's very.
I think there's also a difference in. There's also a different need for the house builders in terms of speed, and they don't always need the speed, and that's the difference between partnership housing.
Yeah, he made that point too, actually, about speed. Yes,
and private sales is there's a very, very different need. Now, that's not to say if Barrett's are doing high rise in London that there isn't that need, because that's a different thing. But in their standard low rise single house developments, there isn't going to be that driver as there is in the others. But yeah, I think, but standardization can be done in other ways, kind of in terms of it has to be junction details standardized rather than the whole thing standardized. So having standardized details, but you can change anything in terms of the size of things, but just making sure that this is how you put the insulation in, this is how you put the membrane in, this is how you add all those other bits in, and that applies to everything from start to finish, I believe.
So standardization of process rather than standardization of what's actually in it, kind of thing.
Yeah, and some design, but the minute bits that actually then you can then scale up or scale down or add new windows.
Right. Obviously, I can't answer that. I'm just, as I say,
no.
That seems to be relevant for that moment.
Yeah,
but Karen, I think that's you're starting to sort of hit the point, and I posted a demand surety report that again was done on the MMC housing working group of CLC. So we've kind of been around this as an industry many times already, and I think it's that piece which is, and Bryden Wood in a kind of configurator that they work with the GLA has done this, where they put some of the evidence and the assessment around, essentially the different levels that when we look at sort of standardization, or which is, as you say, so for example, when you analyze typologies at typology level, there's quite a lot of commonality, right? And actually that bit we should be able to get to some kind of common rules around. As you say, the way components come together, we why do we change it every time? Right? I mean, that's crazy. So certain things need to be when you get and when we've been through those categories already, each one of those categories probably has a different sweet sort of sweet spot around its kind of standardization, granularity and level. And I think that's the kind of piece that's where we're going to make some progress here, is rather than what we can't do, what can we do, and then how do we do that?
That's a perfect lead in, I think, back to the mural. Sorry, Karen.
Yeah, I was going to say, once we finished off with the couple we haven't spoken to on this bit, we will go to the next bit, which will look at more information and processes. So the little, that, like you say, the sweet spots, Adam, where the problems are in terms of information flow. So if that information flow is that designers don't understand where those needs are from the MMC companies, that may be one of those issues. So we can then pick that up. Okay, so Daz, is there anything you want to add on this particular bit as a discussion point generally?
Yes, please. Yeah, I mean, I think there's two parts. One, for example, which is more of a practical one. So working on a project at the moment using sort of, say, cross-laminated timber. Now, with the nervousness around obviously fire, PI insurers, etc., there's it's becoming even more harder to kind of get individuals or companies to be able to sign off systems or assemblies with multiple manufacturers coming together. So CLT, simply dry lining. So even though we feel that it's using sort of different techniques, different materials, we can see the benefits. There's obviously a huge issue in terms of the actual practicality of getting anyone to sign them off. So I think that's a massive hurdle. And in terms of simply like an HPC or building control, not really understanding, because they've not had the experience or the exposure of whether these details actually work or not. Because if you look at the standard NHPC ones or whatever it might be, there might be they're traditional construction based. I think that's a practicality one. But the other one, which is, I guess, a little bit more blue sky thinking, is that typically when we are doing offsite or prefab, or for example, we did a school with CLT, but then obviously brick-based cladding, there's an element that the outer skin, for example, and then the actual kind of intelligent bit of it are quite different from a tolerance point of view or a building processes point of view. And obviously, what will be a bit more radical is to kind of go away from our standard material palette, find new materials. You see a lot of videos of robots laying bricks, which seems like a crazy thing to do because bricks are just size of hand. Robots can lift tons and tons of weight. So that's really more of a much more dramatic call to change of materials, change of aesthetics of our built environment. But that's obviously a much harder thing to kind of for people to swallow, local authorities or just the general public. Putting in a facade which is not made of brick or render or whatever it might be, which everyone's happy with. But actually, that might be a better answer than rather getting robots to lay bricks.
And so that's almost a feedback loop, isn't it? Is when things are being designed, if there's problems on site with how it's fitting, because the tolerances that are standard manufacturing processes, there isn't that feedback loop back, even whether it's with through the BIM system as a concept or as in information sharing, or on a more ad hoc basis of actually feeding back and going, this product isn't suitable for this type of build because of the tolerances. What can be done about it in future? So whether that's changing material or whether that's influencing the manufacturers to then change their tolerances. So, and that could be from anything from an insulation board to a complete unit, but having that feedback, I think, is important. And without everyone knowing what the industry needs, wants, where the problems are, that can't be actioned. So yeah, it's a very valid point, Daz.
Yes, as long as you've got sort of multiple workflows of delivering a product, or a product in the sense of a building or a space, etc., the tolerances element, the benefits of CLT's millimeter accuracy goes out the window when you've got bricklayers coming on site afterwards. So
Yes,
that's why the kind of the aesthetic palette of the kind of the environments that we're building, which is actually aligned to processes, is like I said, a much more sort of a broader, bolder kind of proposal, but maybe one that we need to go down.
yeah, okay, thank you. Nick.
Yeah, so I think there's a few things, 3 particular points I've got, and I think they also merge into one in a way. We've been talking about familiarity. Quite often we get people, you can see a bit of a fear of being a guinea pig. I've always done it this way. I've always, I don't know, manufactured my balconies in concrete, and I know how it works, and I can see it progressing on a site on a day-to-day basis. Whereas taking it off site means that I potentially have a product being manufactured, and I've got to trust that brand that they're going to be delivering whatever that item is. So that's certainly an area we've had a lot of comments on, where people have adopted it, they've seen it deliver on its site and realised the benefits afterwards. But it's kind of really that understanding that piece, and also the importance of manufacturers like ourselves actually making it simple for people to understand and communicate that, so they know what the progress is.
Yeah, no, that's it's good. Yeah. And again, that's about information flow, isn't it? Is how that's managed. Yeah, okay, that's really useful. What was the other ones, Nick?
The second point really is the clarifying the value which is brought on. I know we've sort of talked about this a little bit, but I think where we came from back in 2011, we were manufacturing about 20% of our balconies off-site. 2013, we were manufacturing about 40% of the balcony overall labour off-site, and now we manufacture about 95% of it off-site. And all of those were off-site solutions. Understanding where value lies in those, and what, for instance, the amount of crane saving or scaffolding costs being reduced by manufacturing balcony 95% off-site is quite considerable, and it's about understanding this, and in that whole process of the procurement piece is understanding not just what the product they're looking at is, but understanding how value of all these things added together. We talked about tolerance. It's just another one of those things that, you know, if you're manufacturing several systems off-site, the accuracy increases. If you're manufacturing just one item off-site, you don't really get the same benefit.
Yeah, and that's the thing, is the value isn't time, it's safety, it's cost, it's health, it's protection on site, it's management of site and everything, isn't it? Yeah. Okay. And you said, yep.
Yeah, the last point really is about the culture of procurement, and I think this really is twofold. You mentioned Barratt's there, Rich. We do a lot of work with Barratt's, we do a lot of work with Berkeley and all the people on high-rise schemes. What we do find is that some developers take very much I want to leave all my procurement options right to the end, so I'm not going to choose anything right now. And that makes it really difficult for an MMC manufacturer to understand how you're actually going to realise that value. And it's a bit of a twofold thing. Understand that people are worried that if they commit to a product, it may cost them more later on. But where people do embrace it, Barclays is a really good example. Tony Pitchley, obviously, tragic what happened, but he was very much an advocate of this and could see the benefit of embracing things early on and working collaboratively. And that's really, I think, one of the big barriers really is that often an architect might start that process off with a client and then not necessarily have much control of it when it gets to a D&B contract stage further down the line.
Yeah, okay. Richard, you've got a comment.
Yeah, just a quick one actually. It's somebody mentioned earlier on about perception, and I think this comes into one of Nick's points. A lot of it is about perception. I'm a marketing consultant. I've worked with many clients who have what they call outsourced solutions. People don't want to outsource. As soon as you outsource something, you're giving up control and you're giving responsibility, especially in something that you have a fiduciary and legal responsibility. So that's about perception. It's about the manufacturers within MMC not becoming an outsource. They're a resource. They're not something that you put competence out to. They're a resource that you bring into your business, and that's perceptual.
Yeah. Okay. Yeah. No, it's a good point, isn't it? And it's the same with any subcontractors, but it's even more remote when you can't, like Nick said, you can't see it, can you?
Exactly.
Yeah. We find it particularly in other markets overseas where they've done something a certain way. You introduce new products and people start adapting it, but you also then get the other side of things that people try muddying the water, that they kind of worry people about, you're not going to be able to see this, and actually our system is off-site manufactured and it's only 5% manufactured off-site, and the whole thing actually, again, it's a marketing piece from a brand which is set, they're not choosing to adopt and go down the route of DFM&A, but are at the same time kind of making it more tricky for the developers and the people choosing these solutions to actually understand what value it actually offers.
Yeah, no, definitely. Lastly, Alex. Oh, and George less. Sorry, George. I won't count you as lastly. Alex.
Yeah. Hi. Yeah, I had a few points really. I was not. You couldn't see me obviously because I've gone into hiding, but I was nodding along furiously with Adam because we do quite a bit with Bride and Wood and Bride and Wood have been obviously trying to do DFMA for donkey's years, and of course what happens is every time they do a building, they go, look, isn't it great? And everyone goes, well, hang on, was it cheaper? No, it was considerably more expensive because it was a bespoke standardized building every time. And we were involved with the new prisons project a couple of years ago, and that was just, I mean, you couldn't have written how these things collapse from great intentions to traditional solutions any more than that. I mean, it started off as 6 new prisons, all going to be the same standardized DFMA, offsite, absolutely all driven. And then it went from 6 to 2, and then they decided it was all a bit risky and got not Bride and Wood incidentally, but Kier came in to do one, Interserve the other, and then it dropped to 1, and it was traditional, and it was moving towards traditional, and it was and you could just see it, all of that pattern just moving from, we're going to change how we do things. Let's not just do 1. Let's do 6. Let's get economy of scale. And it just sort of fell apart. And I think, there's this whole risk management issue is just going to be there. That that a lot of people talk about. Can you remove that main contractor role and go with the volumetric or kind of a construction process manager or something. And in the end, until those modular manufacturers can be can find a way to ensure that they carry the risk, and subcontractors, we deal with that risk element, there's gonna be that temptation always to bring a main contractor in, and when you do, the costs don't work. and it gets and all what happens is the main contractor says, well, hang a minute, why are we doing this? We can deliver this cheaper in more traditional ways, and then the poor old architects go, oh, okay, well, we shouldn't design this based on one modular manufacturer or one specific approach to the FMA. So they end up designing it more traditionally, and then the off-site version you get is basically traditional, built off-site in a factory, which isn't changing the methodology necessarily and isn't massively decreasing the value. We're not, there's no thinking outside the box going on. So I think, and then because it's more risky, you end up with a main contractor. So you kind of have this disaster loop that keeps coming around. Yeah. And I think, so we've looked at all of this and said, well, quite often, the part of the problem is too much variation. And actually, if architects had a PAS or something to work towards, that where for certain building, I mean, it sounds, quite scary, I guess, but, schools is quite simple, because you can say, well, a school, you could have a 3.6 by 6 meter grid. And if everybody does it that way, we can, you can come up with a PAS, you can come up with standards, you can come up with the system, which is kind of what seismic was founded against. Or trusting that supply chain, and architects taking that leap of faith to go, actually, we'll get driven, architecturally by the in this case the volumetric supplier working on that system. But there's that whole vision of volumetric in particular being seen to be poor quality, inflexible, uninspiring architecturally, really butts against that kind of loss of control that an architect might feel, or releasing some of that their skill set that architects have, and that the input they'd have on the project. So I think there's a whole lot of complexity and issues in here, and so I mean, I think platforms and kits of parts and systems and assemblies and standardizing those, that if you look at the car model, will get a lot of behind the scenes stuff standardized and structured, so you still get the ability to have architectural flair applied to buildings, but you have maybe fewer options on or guidelines, let's say, on how you deal with some of the structure and some of those features. There's something in that, I think, and then all of that linked in with digital processes and in generative design tools and things like that. But at the moment, it's just everyone's DFMA and everyone's approach is different, and it's very difficult architecturally to design something without it being specifically for a certain company to deliver. And I think that's restrictive on just in that initial design process. That's one of the issues I think we have.
Lovely, thank you. Adam. Oh, you're on mute. Sorry, Adam. Adam, you're on mute. Did you put your hand up, Adam? Sorry.
Yeah, I did. I was just trying to find the mute.
Sorry.
Okay. I think that last point, I mean, I totally agree with everything just said. It's a great sort of vignette of the situation. And I think that the point then does come down to sort of repetition and volume. And I think that in procurement, we do always come back to procurement, because if we treat every single individual project as an individual island, we get what we've currently got. I think it's Keith Waller who says, the construction industry is optimized to the way we currently do it.
The Housing Forum are doing a lot of work on procurement at the moment and how that's managed.
Because we've got, whichever volume, whichever you look at, the crazy thing is, in housing, actually there is volume. By various estimates, between 1 and 300,000 homes per annum, extra is needed to be delivered. So in terms of any area of the construction sector, housing should have the volume. It should have the repetition. When you walk around housing estates, they all look the bloody same. So if you're telling me, no, it's all about iconic, everything has to be separate and stuff like that. No, it doesn't. And that's patently not what is going on today. So I think, and I think Stuart Delgado at Stuart Mill, you know, has a great example, because we're talking about procurement. I think it's Barrett who decided, hang on a second, why am I every single project fishing around for kind of roof trusses and SIPS panels or whatever else like that? No, I need this stuff the whole time. It's no surprise that I'm going to have to build however many 100 or 1,000 homes per annum. You know, I might not be able to tell you exactly where they are or exactly which site they're going to be right now, but I know I'm going to have to build some. So, you know, and he held up a two-side contract, which was, this is the deal that commits to a volume over a period of time in which, you know, we work together, we'll make some mistakes, we'll learn from them, but the main thing is we got continuity and we take the learning from one project to another, not the current day where actually every single individual project you turn up, you've got a completely new team and you're reinventing everything else from day one. So
and that's supply
continuity is a critical piece.
And that's supply chain again, isn't it?
Yes.
Right from the start, regarding that, contractors, manufacturers, clients, designers, with the whole lot. That's relationship building. And unfortunately, when everything goes down to single bid tenders, it takes that out. Yeah. Okay.
Exactly.
Okay. Just before we go on to the next bit, because which is going to be focused more on the information BIM side, and before I hand back over to David to manage those bits, George, have you got any comments?
I've put them up on the device, but I mean the two that I've come across, and I know nothing really, is I've heard people complaining that items get shut loose as they're being transported. So although you've got pods and things that have been manufactured, when they arrive on site, there's then a load of work to do traditionally to actually fix them again. So that's one observation. And the other that I've heard from maintenance teams is that they complain sometimes. I've heard it that it's actually quite difficult to maintain things that have been delivered in that sort of way. So I think understanding how the whole life is, it's not just the constructability, it's also the whole life. And I'm sure that's being covered, but I'm just raising it.
No, they're good points, and obviously tie into the BIM side, particularly with maintenance, is actually if there isn't a mechanism to maintain because of the way they've been built, then the records can't be updated. You can't. There's no point access them because they become irrelevant, don't they? So, Tom, I've seen your comment. That's fine. We'll go on to the next bit now, then, David.
Yeah, I was going to say, Tom, if you could just give me 2 or 3 minutes. I think, in view of the time that we've got blocked out today, we may not achieve what we thought we would, but I think we'd be in a point where the next section would be a great start to our next meeting.
Yeah,
so
definitely.
If we can jump back to the mural, please. Thanks for all those inputs. What I've done here is suggest that the first question to you as a group is, do we think that organising learning topics around the construction industrialisation wheel and DFMA is a good way of planning what our outputs will be? If the answer to that is yes, what I suggest is we try and look at each section from design, manufacture, logistics, assembly and use, and maybe let's try and say, well, what actually are the hard points, the difficult points? What do we think the industry needs to know? And this would be a collaborative group exercise to start putting down some decisions. I think Karen and I rather optimistically thought that we might have got to this point and actually have those filled in today. But I think the point is, in this meeting, we can ask you guys the question, is this a good way to plan what we intend to do? If the answer is yes, let's use this as the first item in our next meeting. If the answer is no, we'll let Karen and I go away and think of another way, or you suggest to us another format. So what's the feeling amongst you?
I think as soon as you present any sort of format or framework, is you can always think of a different way of doing it. So I would very much err on the point of view of it's as good as any. If that's not totally overwhelming support, but
damning with
absolutely, there's no right answer here. So actually, I think the main point is is it being done? I mean, I guess the one question, and I know I joined slightly late, but I'm just what I'm trying to think about is actually between all, and maybe we come back to that, is, there's actually quite a few other groups that are charting this kind of space, and I'm just wondering where some of this might have already been done.
Yeah.
In particular, the CDBB work on lives. There's lots of different places. So I think we ought to keep our visors open to that. If we want to do our capture first, that's great.
So what the plan is, Adam, is a lot of this stuff will be based around the BIM side of it. But if there are repeated questions that are getting asked about MMC generally, is not for us to rewrite stuff, but to use it as signposting to other things that are being done. So we're not going to necessarily be doing lots of resources reference those things, but it will be regarding some simple basic questions of, we have problems with this, where can we go to look for examples, and then we signpost. So, but a lot of it will be related to the information. We wanted to cover MMC as a whole because we wanted to pick out some bits where there are big problems, but actually sometimes they come down to information side. So this will help us filter that down a little bit more, and then we can start pulling that through.
Can I just contribute something on that quickly? And that is that there's a lot of guidance, and obviously David's done some tremendous work that we're going to be able to hopefully reuse. But I think the real value of this group, the general working group structure that we've got set up, is that we'll be able to understand the context in which the individual specialists or interest groups look at a particular problem. And I'm not sure that I've seen that too often reproduced. So I think the guidance and the suggestions in terms of what people are recommending is fantastic. Let's build on that, but let's also capture through our experience here, why is it important? What is it, as Tom, as a developer or a constructor, what are the key things that guidance actually causes problems with, or whatever? So I think that's anyway.
Yeah, lovely.
Should we hop over, as we're nearing 4 o'clock, shall we hop over to the mural and just go through that next actions item, next steps? So Karen, I don't know if you want to type in here in response to what we think as a group we should do, both generally and in planning for the next meeting.
So what I'll do, so the next steps will be is perhaps if each of us can think of 3 particular problems that we are engaged with it or know about, or are the issues that we can then add on to this map. So that can be done before the next meeting, or it can be done at the next meeting. But it'd be good if you've got an idea of those 3 now. I'll send out a date for in a couple of weeks' time, so it gives people a chance to think about it. And I'll do some brief summary for the people that weren't here at this meeting. But I'll let you all know. I'll go over what we've done as well, and we can send the link out to everyone. So David, I'll send you everyone's emails.
Yes, please.
And yeah, it's just trying to think of a few options, 3 questions that we need to then look at addressing. So we'll send some guidance out on our thoughts behind that, and if you think that we need to kind of tweak it slightly, then obviously just let us know. All right.
Makes sense to me. Would there be a link on the Teams?
Yeah. So we haven't got a Teams one yet. Richard's setting one up for me at the moment. So once because this is on my Teams, we'll get that set.
Yep, you've got an MMC channel on Teams.
Thank you,
Correct.
I
Richard.
haven't tagged you into the MMC. I haven't put an MMC tag on yet, but that will be done today.
Okay,
Yeah,
good.
we'll add everyone on, and we'll keep on updating through that, and we'll put the links for this on there as well. And David obviously will email out to everyone the content. All right.
Okay, good. I must rush off, guys.
Yeah,
but
no, you go, Tom. It's
thank you
fine.
all.
Yeah.
See you next
Cheers,
time.
Tom.
Cheers, guys.
Thanks, Tom.
Have a good weekend, all.
Yeah. Thank you all. Yeah. Bye now.
Karen,
Thank you very much.
Karen and
And
David, could you just hang on the call?
Yeah, of course. And we'll
Thanks.
catch up in a couple of weeks, guys. All right.
Cheers all.
Thank you very
And
much.
you, George.
Thanks, Farron. Thanks, Daz. Bye, Nick. Right, how do I stop recording? Or does it automatically record?
I think it will stop
Very
when you hang up. No,
Okay.
I just wanted to say that was our first biggie. That was our
Okay.
first
Oh,
biggie multi-group, and I think it was fantastic.
thank
It
you.
couldn't have gone better. You've set a very high bar, and there's some obviously some people in your groups who are going to be leading other groups and other work streams. I think it should be mandatory that anybody who leads one of these working groups watches that as a recording. George, don't you think?
Yeah, I agree.
I mean, David, that stuff David's put together is brilliant.
Oh, it's
because
fantastic, David. It's
just means
absolutely fantastic.
Oh,
something to work
shucks.
through.
Oh, it's true. It's true. No, it's. I just wanted to say that. Not that my opinion's that relevant, but I just wanted to say that.
Well, I do appreciate your feedback. Bear in mind, I've spent 14 months trying to bring together thoughts and concepts and ideas and learning materials to make offsite easily understandable, and it's
I
an
think you've
environment
done
I'm
it,
really
Dave. I
excited
think
about.
that was massively impressive.
Right up your wheelhouse, David, then,
It
isn't it?
certainly is, yeah.
Yeah, brilliant.
I'm glad you're pleased. Thank you.
No, excellent.
Karen, it's been a pleasure so far. Anyway.
Yeah, well, thank you. We'll get an email out to everyone, and we'll catch up perhaps early next week, David, and clarify what we're going to put in the emails to everyone, and we'll keep going from there.
Okay.
Fantastic.
All right. Thank you for the feedback, both.
Well done, guys. Very, very
Thank you,
good.
George.
Okay.
It's
Thank you.
it's going to be a busy one, isn't it? Because there's a lot of big people coming on to the next few ones as well.
Yeah.
They've responded to me. It's yeah, it's going to be good. Yeah, fab. All right,
See you
guys.
later.
I'll send over the recording.
Fantastic.
Thank you. Cheers.
Thank you.
Cheers.
Bye.
Bye.